Hello and welcome to another Meet the Creators. My name's Denise Erickson and I'm co-founder of Media Mentors and one of the sponsors of this broadcast. Before we get underway, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we are working from here in Naarm and Melbourne, the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And of course, pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and indeed to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders from all nations of this land. I want to thank our supporters, ACMI, of course, Film Victoria and AFTRS, all of whom are brilliant. So, great topic tonight, amazing. Even today, God, I think that COVID's eating my brain. It's lunchtime. We've got a great topic today, the amazing Wentworth, a brilliant series for Australian television, and full power to Foxtel for being so supportive of it for so long. It's coming to the end of it. It's almost 100 episodes at the moment. And so it's time to salute a series which has brought so much to the industry here in Victoria, but also to pick the brains of some of the creators of this amazing work. Joining me today, we have Jo Porter, who's executive producer since the start of Wentworth, along with Foxtel's Penny Wynn. Hi, Jo. The amazing Katrina Milosevic. Now, I probably will call you Boomer all the way through because Sue Boomer Jenkins, what an amazing character. And for so long, I just bloody love her. She's just amazing. And I am particularly thrilled to have Marcia Gardner joining us. She's been script producer and writer from series 2, and I'm busting to pick her brains on these sort of twists and turns that this amazing series has taken us on for so long. But look, I think before we get underway with the discussion, why don't we have a little look at a clip from Wentworth, from sort of go to almost woe. So Simon, if we could have clip 1, please.
The name says it all. Wentworth Correctional Centre. Society has deemed these women defective, and it's our job to fix them.
They think it takes a strong woman to rise to the top in here, but it doesn't. It takes a smart one who chooses their moment and understands the repercussions if they get it wrong.
My name's Miss Ferguson, but you can call me Governor. You step out of line, there will be consequences.
All right, everyone step back now! Maybe you'd like to back off.
Is she gonna be a bloke one day?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm losing myself. I am stuck in here with nothing. You are stronger than this.
Stealing and disseminating government secrets. It's a new one.
I'm putting an end to our little agreement. You're on your own, Frankie.
I want you to tell me what you did to my daughter.
She was better off dead.
It's Queen Bee. She's a top dog now.
You need to remind everyone who's in charge.
You don't run this prison. I do. If you rule through chaos, you reap what you sow.
We are awaiting the imminent arrival of former Wentworth Governor Joan Ferguson.
To get justice, sometimes you need to cross it. What you did, that was a beautiful thing.
Holy hell, I'm exhausted just watching that. What a brilliant series. Jo, I'm going to start with you because you were there from the beginning. How did Wentworth come about?
So it It really came about. Many people had been trying or talking about rebooting Prisoner. And Fremantle, as the producer, actually, it evolved out of Grundy's. And so the Prisoner catalogue, and in fact, Prisoner itself, is part of their DNA. And I hadn't joined the company yet, but there'd been various conversations going on. And I was on sort of leave before I began, and it was overseas. And I got a call from the then CEO, Ian Hogg, saying, hey, congratulations, you've just sold your first show. And it was like, what? And he was in Cannes meeting with Brian Walsh, and basically over a handshake, they agreed that let's do it. Let's look at reinventing and bringing back Prisoner under the guise of Wentworth. They'd just recently played the whole of the original series of Prisoner on what was then 111 Hits, and it had found a new audience. And then within Fremantle, there was a woman called Lara Radulovic who did the original development with Pete McTighe, and that was part of taking it into Foxtel, and they said very happily yes. So that was how it sort of began.
Had you seen much of Prisoner?
No, I'm far too young, and my parents were far too strict. But and, you know, it's interesting because today we take it for granted that you can have catalogues of content just at your fingertips. But back then, in the day of the VHS, it wasn't a thing, you know. And so if you didn't watch it live, it was kind of not there to be had. But that said, obviously, Prisoner is such a iconic series within Australian television lore that there were certain characters that, you know, you knew, and I'd seen clips and stuff, but I hadn't watched it as a whole. But we didn't need to, because we had, you know, the brilliant Michael Adato and Andrew Mercado, who were both super fans, along with Pete McTighe, who really brought the a lot of that intel into the room. And, you know, Penny Wynn as our absolutely fundamentally important commissioning editor, was also, she had an incredible, she just has an encyclopedia of television generally and film, but she could draw on her own understanding as well. So that was sort of where it all began.
Amazing. And now, Boomer, Katrina, tell me how you got a gig to start off with. Oh, you've sort of disappeared into the gorgeous Wentworth set. Come back. I love it.
Oh, that is hilarious.
That is hilarious. She looked amazing. Maybe I'll just talk to Marcia a bit while we sort out, because Joe had this legend idea to bring the set background in, but so now, Marcia, you came in on the second season. So tell us about what. Oh, you're back. Oh no, I've got to go to Katrina. I'm sorry. Back to you in a minute, Marcia. This is live television at its best.
That is absolutely fundamentally typical of me.
I love it, Katrina. I
can't do it for an hour. Start speaking, all of a sudden it happens.
It's gorgeous.
So sorry.
So no, tell me, how did you audition for Boomer, and what did you know of Boomer before you did audition?
I remember hearing that Wentworth was happening and that they were going to begin casting. This is back in I think it was 2011. And I was working with Kevin Carlin at the time, who's a director, and who ended up being our startup director and consistent all through Wentworth. But he said, I reckon there's something in there for you. And I said, oh, okay, cool. And at the time I was about to go overseas on tour with a play with Kate Blanchett around Europe. And so then I'd heard that Wentworth had been pushed back a bit, and I went on this tour and I just couldn't get it out of my head. So I'd be finishing the play in London and waiting up till a decent hour to then ring my agent in Sydney going, have we heard anything about what's happening with Wentworth and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually I was told that, yes, I had an audition and it was for a character called Boomer. And when I got the character breakdown, it was a few lines, and it was Boomer is built like a brick shithouse. She's not the sharpest tool in the shed, and she's Frankie's muscle. And that was sort of it. And I went, oh, to thinking of Kevin, I'll kill you. Okay. And anyway, so that was how I got the audition. It was just she kind of being annoying, and also because beautiful Kevin Carlin had kept me in mind. So yeah, that's
absolutely. I mean, and I must pay tribute to Kevin because he's been such an extraordinary force in this series. I mean, he's just done a brilliant job as well. But you had aspirations beyond being a sort of, you know, 2-line descriptor for the second season, didn't you? Tell me about how you sort of like went in there and kept going.
Well, I wouldn't say I had aspirations as such. I wasn't sure how it was all going to, how it was going to play out. All I knew was that I was a guest character who was going to be in every episode of the first series. And the beauty of that is that as a guest character, you're only contracted for one series. This is so weird talking about this in front of your boss, Joe Porter. Hi, Joe. Good. And so anyway, I went through the first series, and yeah, I had a similar experience in Stingers with Marcia, and Kev Carlin again sort of saying, you know, we can build this character, we can just come on and we can build it, and which happened in Stingers, and I sort of thought, which was amazing, and I was so grateful, and then come Wentworth, I sort of thought, oh, I'm getting old, I'm getting so old, do I want to keep doing this? And I spoke to Kev about it, and he said, no, you'll be right. And you know, he'd throw a camera on me whenever he could, and I just loved it so much. I kind of lived in that character the whole time. And I, you know, if there was ever an opportunity for me to be in a scene that I wasn't written into, I'd be there in the background somewhere doing something. And you know, and just because I felt, and I think we as a cast also felt, that it was important to make sure that this world felt full and real, and that there was no escaping conveniently. So yeah, so we did that. And then when it came time to negotiate that, when I was asked to come back, I said, oh yeah, if you make me main cast. And so they did. Joe did. Thank you so much.
We all did. It was, you know, I can leap in, and you know, Katrina obviously just brings so much heart and warmth and fun, and you know, I think one of the great strengths of, you know, the writers the whole way through, Mars has been so careful and so clever in blending all of those aspects and you and characters, and you do it goes to some really dark places, and so you want the beacon of hope and the beacon of there's a purity to Boomer, and I think that's a really wonderful quality. And so I think in the darker times you look, and there's a simplicity into that purity sometimes too, but she's a very precious and important character, and I can't even imagine the series. It's impossible to imagine the series without her and you, Katrina. So,
oh, that's so nice. And Marcia, during our conversation before this session today, you did say that. You said, well, you know, she was a character that you were very keen to develop because you came in on season 2. So when you sort of stepped in to season 2, did you think it was going to go for like, I don't know, 100 episodes? Was that your expectation? Oh, microphone's not on. That's okay. We'll just get that. Hang on. Sorry, we'll have to get, yeah, that's it. We're on. We didn't turn you back on again. So what was your expectation?
Well, I tend to specialize in long-running shows for some reason. I get on a show and I'm just like, Stingers was 8 seasons. It just sort of somehow happens. But I didn't really have that expectation, but I loved the show. I loved season 1 when I watched it. And what it really attracted me about it was just that it was a really gritty show. And for the first time having, you know, Foxtel gave us the imprimatur to really go bold. And that's, you know, I just thought, I'll take that and run with it. So that's what we did. And it was just so exciting. And yeah, it just kept going. We just didn't have trouble finding story material for this show, and it was just amazing. And having that rich cast of fabulous characters, and then we brought some new ones in when we needed to, and yeah, so that just gave it life after life after life.
I'm going to drill down in a minute, but there's something I forgot to do in the housekeeping at the start, just to explain about questions. What we are doing on these sessions is that after 45 minutes, we're going to say goodbye to the live YouTube and invite you people watching to join the Zoom so that you can talk up close and personal and be part of the discussion. So stand by, in about 45 minutes, you'll be able to join in. And I'm hearing a whisper that Penny Wynn might be watching from New Zealand. So if you're there, Penny, we really, really want you to come in as well. So yes, bring it. Okay, now let's just talk writing, because one of the things that's just as a standout about this series is the amazing twisting and turning stories of Wentworth. One of the things you talked about was the depth of time you're given to be able to, you know, write before the series or develop before you start writing. Can you talk a bit about that? Because it's very rare in Australian drama.
It's rare, and it's absolutely crucial, I think. I think a lot of Australian dramas have been shortchanged in the development time, and that's often the reason why shows don't work to their potential. But we were extremely fortunate on Wentworth that we had, both from Foxtel and Fremantle, both Penny and Joe really understood the necessity for that development time, and we were really fortunate that we had that.
And so how did you develop? I mean, for people, I know people who will be watching this will be fascinated and want to be writers themselves. So when you talk about a development phase, what happens during that time?
Well, that's a time when the whole writing team get together, and before anything's ever written, long time before anything's ever written down on paper, or not paper, but, you know, on your program, on your writing program, the writing team as a whole spend a lot of time nutting out who the characters are, what the character arcs are for each and every core character in that cast, what the journey is that they're going to go on for that entire season. And it's all carefully charted and woven together like this big tapestry. And from that kind of big picture view of that world, then, you know, including all the themes that we want to extract from each and every season, but from that big picture, we then start to fill in detail. And then we'll start to look at each episode individually and the story through that episode, and what the high points of the drama are, and what the big character turns are going to be for those specific episodes. So it's massive process of adding detail, starting from the outside and then working in and adding more and more and more and more detail.
Jo, what's your role at that time as producer?
You know, we talk about the big ambitions of the season, and it's the writers pitch that to us, and, you know, Mars leading that. And then I really think the role of a producer almost throughout, even though you have very active involvement at points, it's really to be the first audience. So it's offering up opinion based on the things that are pitched to us. We can ask questions, probe questions, because we're not in the room. So we don't have all the assumed knowledge or the assumed understanding of all the decisions and all the winding ways they went before they came to where they've landed. We can just offer a first opinion, and that, you know, can be really helpful, I hope, Mars. And what is really great is that from the start is that it's establishing and this is very much alongside with Penny, what is the show we're making, and so that we're all aligned, we're all sharing an ambition and a direction to where we're heading, and so that's crucial to really set that up at the beginning. And so then, we're just a further editorial process that sits around the scripting, but very much cheerleaders along the way.
Marcia, tell me, I think you said there was 4 on the writing team for each series. Is that, did I get that right?
Yes.
And how did, do you have core people that come back each time?
Yeah, so, Pete McTighe, who wrote the pilot episode and probably, I think, half of the first season single-handedly, he agreed to come back for season 2. And then I also brought on John Ridley, who was another mainstay writer. So the 3 of us were kind of the core team that went pretty much from season 2 right through to the very end, with the exception of Pete, who got his own show up with the BBC in the UK. So he had to leave the final season. He didn't do season 9. But Pete, John and I were basically the core team that went through the whole series. And then there was a 4th writer that came pretty much for 1 season each. So that was sort of the fresh head in the room, really.
And of course, I'm sure people have asked you this before, 2 male writers and 1 female writer. We did have a chat about it. What was the thinking? I mean,
Yeah, it's a show about women written by men.
Yeah.
with the exception of myself. No, there were actually a couple of other women. Kim Wilson, for example, joins us on season 9. But it really wasn't. It really wasn't by design. But I think it actually worked out really well, because I think the fact that there were strong male voices. The males tend to write the protagonists, or the women, our lead characters, like they would write male protagonists, so that they were doing the action. They weren't just someone's wife or girlfriend or appendage. They actually did the action. So the boys treat those characters like they would write men traditionally in traditional drama. And so I think it actually worked out really well, because our women have balls. They're actually
ovaries. Metal ovaries.
Yeah.
Metal ovaries. Oh my God, I'm loving that. Katrina, did Boomer have metal ovaries?
Maybe that's why she's had so much trouble having a baby.
Oh my God, that's so sad. And then
no, that and the fact that she can't have sex because she's in.
But she does slip into a little bit of sex coming up, I hear. But also, I sidetracked. But I know that Catherine Miller, was saying that the actors have enormous, input into feedback on the scripts. How did your feedback to Marcia? What form did that take?
Marcia, I'm so glad she's on the other side of a screen, because it is quite possible that her hands would be around my neck right now. No, it was amazing for me anyway. It was such an amazing it just made me feel, it made me feel so alive to be able to collaborate like that. And it's interesting because I think, hearing what Mars was saying about the blokes writing female characters, I think the thing too from the actor's standpoint is we always, and Joe could probably attest to this too, that from the get-go, from series 1, our women weren't backwards in coming forward. So, that was the thing that when I first met the cast, it's the thing that absolutely blew my mind, was how smart and invested and tenacious and creative and determined these other women were. I'd never experienced that on a set before, where there's just a bunch of women all wanting to be on the same page. And straight away, we were figuring out how we can get together and actually feel, you know, how do we make it feel as though the audience is coming into this already established place and our place within that. And so we worked really hard on that outside of work. So I think, you know, to be able to come to Mars and go, hey, what do you think about this? Or what did you mean by that? And, or, you know, to be able to, you know, Paul Marcio and the writers, because, and everyone actually, including post-production, we're all in the one building. So there was no escaping. We could find them wherever they were. And, you know, to actually be able to ask the questions that needed to be asked, you know, for our own purposes, or, you know, in terms of bigger picture stuff, or making suggestions or querying, you know, some sort of, I don't know, continuity issue or something, you know, like to have them on hand and be able to have that conversation, for me, was just the best thing in the world. Like, I learnt so much, and it just made me feel safe. It made me feel like, okay, I can do justice to what I need to do here, because the stakes were always so high, and the last thing you want to ever do is come in under. You know, you need to attack it from, go bold. Just is always the directive, and so yeah, that was I don't even know if that answered your question. I went on a whole
it definitely does. No, it absolutely does, and I think it's full power to you, Marcia, and your team for enabling that to happen. Because absolutely. I'm sure there was times you just wanted to shut the door and hide under the desk. Maybe you did that.
I think she did. I think she did.
In a meeting.
I want to talk a little bit about, you know, developing character in the way in which we do it, and we are going to talk about Boomer in particular and play a clip in a minute. But, you know, I remember when we were speaking that each character has a story arc for the series, and in fact for the whole series, really. And it was partly that story arc running out of puff as to the reason why the decision to get rid of B happened, wasn't it? I mean, tell me the thought process that led to a huge development like that.
Well, we were into the 4th season of the show and going along extremely successfully, but at the, you know, coming towards the end of that, we were speaking with Joe, and Pino and I, you know, we were saying to Joe, we don't want to pitch season 5. We want to pitch the next 4 seasons. We wanted to set the show up for, because by this stage we just knew that, you know, we could really go on with this show. And so we wanted to set the show up for another 4 seasons. But in contemplating another 4 seasons, we also realized that we couldn't, with B as top dog, as fabulous as that was, we couldn't just keep wheeling in antagonists, a new antagonist every season to go up against B, and we were in danger of repeating ourselves, you know, if not the same story, the same story dynamic. And so we realized that we really had to make a big change to set the show up for another 4 seasons. So
did that give you the collie wobbles?
Oh, you bet, because, you know, like such an iconic main character that was obviously very loved by the audience. So it was hugely risky, and we did talk about it at length and for a very long time. You remember this, Joe, you know, the discussions we had over it, and, you know, at various points throughout that whole process, one or other of us would get, you know, would get cold feet and go, oh, are we making the right decision? And, you know, and we just had to keep, you know, hold on to the vision and just go, yes, we are making the right decision. And I mean, you know, in dramatic terms, I feel it was the right decision, because B was a tragic hero. And so, you know, it was inevitable that a tragic hero would reach their tragic end. And it just felt very appropriate. Also, plus the fact that, you know, she was in love, she'd found Ali, you know, and she'd abdicated from the top dog position and handed over to Kaz at this point. So really the only scenes that were left were having beautiful scenes of her and Ali sitting together in the cell, you know, looking right at each other. And I mean, you know, it's not great drama.
Enough
so
already.
You know,
okay.
A happy person is not great drama, unfortunately. So, you know, and so
also,
that's
yeah,
how it came.
it honoured your edict really the whole way through too, of expect the unexpected too, and that like it sort of, you're right, because it did reset it for the next, for the continuation of another 50 episodes after that point. And again, just showing, because no character is off limits, that it just raises the stakes and the risk factor, which is which you very cleverly maintain the whole way along. But yeah, it was a much debated decision, but it was the right one. And it's interesting. I know Dan, who we were so sad to say goodbye to as an individual, as well as the character that she played. She's said herself now that she feels it was absolutely the right decision too, because also, she's wanting to be, as an actor, stimulated constantly too, and feeling growth and feeling progression too. And so she also agreed that it was the right decision, albeit, controversial.
The sadness, yeah. Now, talking about character development, you've given me a lovely segue into a scene that I'd like to play now and discuss. Which again features you, Katrina. So could we play clip 2, Simon?
No. Do you have audio?
No.
I love you.
Wow, Katrina, that's amazing.
I can't watch that without Celia's eyes. Oh, I can't. I've had to talk about that scene quite a bit because season 8 part B is on air now, and I can't talk about it without. And that was 2 years ago. It's so weird. It's so sorry. Bloody Celia, I blame her and Marcia.
I'll give you a minute because it clearly moves you. It's an amazing performance. Marcia, you talked about that as being a seminal moment in Boomer's journey. Can you talk a little bit about why you think that?
Well, Boomer as a character was, given her fetal alcohol syndrome and, the fact that she'd grown up with this alcoholic mother, and she was sort of in a state of arrested development, and she was just, in some ways very childlike and very needy of love and affection. And her whole arc was just all about to find love and to be loved. And then, ultimately, she had, and when her alcoholic mother comes into the prison, it's so confronting because this woman is so awful to her and so incapable of love. And, we see Boomer really wanting it. And at the end of that whole journey, her major realization is that, that it doesn't need to be her biological mother. Her real mother was Liz. And so hard on the heels of that realization, then, this what she does is an act of love. You know, she releases Liz from her suffering, and that's the first time really that Boomer as a character has stood up and taken responsibility, and that's her first step as an adult. And having taken that first step as an adult and taken responsibility, it allows her then to actually, you know, proceed on her journey, and, you know, with the hope that she's now capable of getting what she wants.
Katrina, one of the things that you can't help but notice in that whole series is how deep all of the actors have to go. The performances are so intense. How did you and other cast members deal with that?
I think we're still dealing with it.
Yeah.
It's
deeply traumatized.
Deeply traumatized. Therapy, yeah. See, here's the thing. The beauty of what Joe, Penny and Pino and Nathan from casting is that whenever, you know, every sort of incarnation of Wentworth over each series with new characters, the caliber and quality of actor that has been brought on, that's what they want. They want to go there. They know that, you know, you can't get away with anything less. And it's just, we just got so lucky. And you know, that everyone who sort of came on board, Susie Porter, Kate Fox, Zoe Tarakis, you name it, they would meet you where you needed to be and were willing to go there. And I think I don't know how any of us really got to decompress afterwards. I really mean it when I say I still am. I mean, the fact that makes me cry still says maybe I've got some issues that I need to sort out. But yeah, it's I think it's a process. It's a process. But what a gift. What a gift it really is to have that kind of, to be able to traverse that range of content and emotion, and like, it's just, you just don't get that, and we'll probably never get that again. It was extraordinary, an extraordinary gift, and everyone knew that. So yeah.
Joe, one of the things that you mentioned during our pre-chat was the fact that women's prisons, one of your consultants talked to you about the difference between women and men's prisons, and obviously it shapes a lot of what happened. Can you talk to that a little bit, please?
Yeah, it was that men can be a lot more black and white. They can resolve an issue with a punch or with violence, and it's sort of done. It's done, dull diplomacy. But with a female prison, that it's scarier because it's less predictable, and because it really does tip into much more of a psychological game against each other and psychological wielding of power. And because it's so unpredictable, it's much harder to control and anticipate things that are going to happen in that environment. So which is interesting examination of men and women, I guess. It certainly makes it a very rich playground for the writers and actors to sort of explore all of the nuanced layers, and particularly what I think always has been so exciting about it, like Mars was saying earlier, not just as a +1, but very much exploring the whole gamut of power, from the most sublimated through to the most powerful, be it the top dog or the governor or whomever that role of power is on both sides of the fence. So it was really fertile grounds to play in. And Katrina, I was just thinking about you saying hard to get over it, and I think it's also weird with this one too, because actors, it's so tough. The places that our cast had to go were really dark, and there was hangings, and these were actions that were being played out on people that they knew and loved as individuals, outside the character, and so hard to sort of take that off. And I know the producer, Pino, and the whole production team and the directors would always take great care to respect and honor that, and to sort of really try to make it a safe space in a way, and to decompress afterwards. But you know, and at the end of any season, or you take off the skin of the character, but we didn't have that ritual because of COVID. We still haven't had a wrap party.
No.
We still haven't had all that sort of ritualized hanging up of the jacket or whatever it is, and that's normally part of it. So
it's true. That is true. That maybe that is. You're right. There's no closure.
No.
Yeah.
In a minute, I'll get ACMI, Tara, if you could put up into the YouTube chat the Zoom address and if you want to stay on and join in, please feel free, click on that link and we'll let you in as we progress. But before I do that, Marcia, I've watched so many people die in so many ways. Last week, I know, like you've given me great ideas, but I think one of the great legacy of Wentworth is I don't think I'll ever do anything that'll put me in prison. What for you as a writer are the legacies that you take out of an experience like Wentworth? I know that's a hell of a question.
It is a hell of a question. It's actually really hard to top. And my great fear is that, you know, that we'll never, any of us that were associated with this show may never have as wonderful an experience again in our professional lives. And that actually really torments me because now it's just such a high bar, such a high bar.
And Jo, what about you? Same question.
I'm incredibly proud and grateful that I got to work with this incredible group of people, and it certainly has been some really hugely high professional moments for me as well. But I'm just so proud that, you know, we were ahead of the curve in terms of female-led productions. And so I think that's why immediately it felt so fresh and exciting, and why it just garnered such a legion of fans locally, but also overseas, because these weren't roles that we got to see, and the shades of being a woman that we got to see. And so I'm really proud to have played my part in a show that did that.
And Jo, you've now taken a new job, of course, as CEO of Playmaker. Are you hoping that you're going to have the opportunities to bring that sort of freshness and excitement into the work that you're doing? Is there an appetite for, and I'm not saying more Wentworth, I'm actually talking about the legacy of Wentworth, which is that passion and excitement and great roles for women. Are you seeing a hunger for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that genie is well and truly out of the bottle. And, you know, it's, you know, I am a woman, and so I'm always drawn to those sort of stories. And, you know, it's looking at collaborators that find those sort of just distinct characters that they want to bring to life. And, you know, I have the pleasure of Mars and I are talking about a project. I've got the pleasure of working with her again, hopefully. And so it's, you look for those people that just have something distinct and unique to say. And yeah. And so, yes, absolutely. In the short answer.
Good news.
Hell yeah.
Katrina, Boomer, as you said, was a sort of once in a lifetime role, but you're not just Boomer. You've done shed loads of other amazing work. What sort of things are on the horizon that are pushing your buttons at the moment? What sort of roles have you got coming up? What are you working on? You're not allowed to talk about them, really, are you?
Oh, it's kind of, I am in this horrible position at the moment as an actor where there are about 3 things right there that could possibly just turn your life upside down, but it's a bit of all or nothing at the moment. I'm teetering on that edge, but I think, yeah, so I've got Spreadsheet, as you say, which will go to air I think in October at some point. So I'm doing publicity for that at the moment. But I want to creatively produce. That's what I want to do. That's where I want to go. And so that doesn't mean just, you know, creating roles for myself, although that would be cool. But I've been lucky enough to have been working on an idea with the beautiful Julie Eckersley, who then got made head of drama at SBS. So that's not a bad thing. That's a pretty cool thing. But now I've got to yeah, I've just got to get my bum into gear. And as soon as I can get these things out the way, then I can get back to doing what I want to do. Because and that's thanks to Wentworth. That is so thanks to, and I am in no way ready to just go, yeah, I'm going to do this. I want to learn. That's what I want to do. But they're the little steps I want to start taking. I want to be surrounded by people. I've realised I'm very much a team player, and I just love ideas. And so, yeah, that's what I want to do. I still want to act.
That's a great legacy from Wentworth for you too, that sort of team player. And it was obviously a big family for you for 8 years.
Absolutely. Still is. Almost, yeah. Oh, it's hard to describe, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
At this point, I'm going to say goodbye to the live YouTubers. Thank you for joining us. And thanks, of course, to AFTRS, Film Fact, and ACMI for doing amazing support of this these broadcasts. And come again next month, because we've got another exciting one planned, probably on online drama this time, drama made just for online. And I think there's fertile territory there. So thank you to Marcia, Joe and Katrina. You've been bloody amazing. You're not going anywhere yet because we've got to bring that audience in. But thank you. I just have loved talking to you, and I'd love to keep going all afternoon, but I know you've got better things to do. Thanks again, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.